210, 220, 280, 290, 300, 310.45.
Yeah, big red.
From Parker Schnabel's fearless journey in the gold mines to the shocking accident that changed everything, Parker Schnabel's life is in danger after something terrible happened to him. Parker Schnabel. The name alone brings to mind grit, resilience, and pure determination. Known for his tenacity on the gold rush, he faced countless dangers in the pursuit of fortune. But this time, things are different. His life hangs in the balance after a terrifying accident on site. When everything went wrong. It was supposed to be another day of digging, another chance at striking gold. But instead, Parker found himself in a nightmare. One that wasn't about gold or money or success. It was about survival. For the first time, the fearless gold miner wasn't just fighting for profit, he was fighting for his life. So what went wrong? How did one of the most seasoned miners end up in such a dire situation? And more importantly, will he ever be the same? A legacy of danger. To understand how Parker ended up here, you need to know where he came from. Born in the rugged wilderness of Haines, Alaska, Parker Schnabel was destined for the life of a miner. From a young age, he was inspired by his grandfather, John Schnabel, a seasoned gold miner with deep roots in the Big Nugget mine. While most kids were spending their days playing video games, Parker was learning the ropes of one of the world's most dangerous jobs. By 16, he was already leading a crew
of their new teenaged mine boss.
Yeah, you can run the excavator, and Gary, you can run the truck. I guess that's a no.
Showing the world he wasn't just another kid dabbling in heavy machinery, but the recent accident has forced him to face a harsh reality. It doesn't matter how much experience you have, the world of gold mining is unpredictable, and danger is always lurking just around the corner. Parker's rise to fame on Gold Rush. Viewers watched Parker grow from a determined teenager to a respected veteran on Gold Rush. With each season, his ambitions grew larger, his risks greater, and his focus sharper. Fans admired his ability to keep going, no matter the obstacles, from brutal weather to personal loss. And while he gained fame for his grit, this season, the risks reached a new high. The stakes? Life and death. Imagine this, a young man willing to push himself to the brink, all for the thrill of gold. Parker wasn't just digging for profit, he was digging for a legacy. But in the world of gold mining, even the most experienced are one bad day away from disaster. The incident that changed everything. This season, Parker took his ambition to new ground, facing fiercer competition and the dangerous wilderness of a new mining site. But ambition comes at a cost. The land was remote, the terrain challenging, and the weather unforgiving. Every day, Parker battled against nature itself, determined to claim what lay beneath. And then it happened. A catastrophic collapse that sent shockwaves through his team and left Parker fighting for his life. Heavy rains had destabilized the ground they were working on. One moment, everything was under control. The next, a huge section of land gave way, trapping Parker and several crew members in a chaotic, life-threatening situation. Parker's brush with death. Parker found himself trapped, unable to move, as the world around him fell apart. His vehicle flipped, partially buried under the debris. For a moment, it seemed like this might be the end. Dust filled the air, and panic took over the crew as they scrambled to free Parker and the others.
Parker, look out, look out, look out, look out! Parker! Parker!
But the collapse created a ticking time bomb. Any wrong move could trigger even more landslides. They had to act fast if they were going to save their leader. The rescue effort. Rescue efforts began immediately, but the unstable ground made every second critical. Parker and his crew spent hours trapped in the wreckage, their fate uncertain. The rescue team had to balance their desire to save lives with the risk of making things worse. Every moment felt like an eternity. The crew's leader, who had always seemed untouchable, was now hanging by a thread. A miraculous survival. Finally, after what felt like forever, they reached him. Parker Schnabel had survived, but he wasn't unscathed. Broken ribs and a concussion were the least of his worries. This ordeal had shaken him to the core. As they pulled him from the wreckage, it was clear the accident had taken more than just a physical toll. Parker, who had always seemed invincible, had come face to face with his own mortality. Parker's reflection. In the days that followed, Parker found himself reflecting on his choices. For the first time, he questioned if the risks were worth it. Gold mining had always been his passion, his purpose. But this experience had forced him to confront the reality of his lifestyle. Parker wasn't just facing a tough season. He was facing a harsh truth about what he was willing to sacrifice. And while the physical wounds would heal, the mental scars would stay with him long after. Parker admitted, "I've faced danger before, but this was different. This was life or death." For someone who prided himself on his work ethic and resilience, the incident was a wake-up call. The accident changed him. And while he still dreams of striking gold, he's starting to see that some risks might not be worth taking. Parker's long road to recovery. After the rescue, Parker was quickly transported to the nearest hospital, where doctors treated his broken ribs and concussion. Physically, he would heal, but mentally, he was in unmapped territory. For a man who had spent his entire career pushing the boundaries of risk, this close call forced him to slow down and reflect on the cost of his ambition. As he lay in that hospital bed, Parker found himself confronting a reality he'd ignored for too long. Even the most driven people have limits, and this time, his limits had nearly cost him his life. For years, Parker had focused on one goal, getting as much gold as possible, but the collapse showed him just how unforgiving the environment could be. This wasn't just another challenge to overcome, it was a wake-up call. Parker knew he'd been pushing himself and his crew to the limit. "I've always been about getting results," he admitted. But now, for the first time, he started to see the dangers he'd willingly embraced. Mining wasn't just about digging up gold. It was about balancing that pursuit with safety, a balance he realized he hadn't always maintained. The weight of responsibility. For Parker, the weight of responsibility hit hard. This wasn't just about him. His crew relied on him for their livelihoods, and seeing the fear in their eyes during the collapse changed something in him. "These guys are like family to me," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Knowing that I could have lost them, it hit me hard." This incident brought a harsh reality into focus. His actions didn't just impact his life but the lives of those who trusted him. He knew he couldn't continue pushing everyone to the edge without considering the risks.
This wife plant, it's got a lot more sluice run width, and so that's what should increase our yardage and help us get through all of the pay here at Dominion and the money pit that we have to do. It's a bit of a gamble going with something that's untested late in the season, but we'll roll those dice.
Determined to make a change, Parker began to see that success wasn't just about the amount of gold extracted, it was about how he got there. "I need to be more careful," he acknowledged. "I can't keep pushing myself and my crew to the brink." For Parker, this wasn't a defeat, it was a lesson. He could still chase his dreams, but with a smarter, more cautious approach. This accident had given him perspective, one he hadn't had before. The aftermath and rebuilding. Recovery wasn't easy. His physical injuries kept him off the mining site, and the mental impact lingered long after he was discharged from the hospital. But Parker was determined to get back on his feet, even if it meant moving at a slower pace. Fans of Gold Rush noticed a different Parker when he returned. There was a caution to him, a new respect for the dangers of the job. The once relentless miner was now more measured, more thoughtful in his approach. Parker's brush with death sparked an important conversation among Gold Rush fans. Many began questioning the ethical implications of reality TV shows that push stars to their limits for the sake of drama and ratings. Was the price of these extreme situations too high? Was Parker's life worth the moments of suspense on screen? Some fans voiced concerns, calling for the show to take a more cautious approach in its filming methods. For Parker, the incident had brought a new awareness of these pressures, making him wonder if the show's format sometimes pushed him further than he was willing to go. The dark side of gold mining. Parker's recent brush with death is a sobering reminder of the dark side of gold mining. From collapsing terrain to extreme weather, the profession is full of dangers that miners face every single day. While the thrill of the hunt and the promise of striking it rich drive people like Parker, the job takes a toll on both the body and mind. Miners work long hours in isolated locations, often far from any medical help. The relentless pressure to meet production goals only heightens the risks, creating a high-stakes environment where mistakes can be fatal. For Parker, this collapse was a brutal reminder that no amount of experience can fully protect miners from the unpredictable dangers they face daily. Before the accident, Parker's focus was unbreakable. Gold was all that mattered. But as he lay in that hospital bed, his thoughts shifted. His life, his health, and the people he cared about became more important than ever. It was a perspective he hadn't had before. and it was one he knew he couldn't ignore. This doesn't mean Parker is ready to give up on his dreams of mining.
Every dollar I would spend in Alaska probably goes like 5 times further here. And the gold don't give a gold doesn't care whether it's coming from Alaska or Bolivia or the ocean or the moon.
Far from it, but it does mean he's starting to approach those dreams with more caution. He's realizing that some risks might not be worth taking, no matter how big the payoff. Finding a balance. In the months following the accident, Parker reflected deeply on his life and his goals. He'd always been driven by ambition, but now he understood that chasing his dreams didn't have to mean putting everything on the line. Being smarter about how I go after my goals is just as important as the goals themselves, he admitted. As he began to rebuild his career, Parker focused on finding a balance, a way to pursue his passion without sacrificing his life or the safety of his crew. It was a new challenge, one that would test his ability to adapt and grow. What's next for Parker? Fans of Gold Rush are left wondering what Parker's next move will be. Will he continue to push himself and his crew as hard as before, or will he take a step back and focus on staying safe? The accident has definitely changed him, but only time will tell if he's ready to slow down or keep striving for more. One thing is certain, Parker is a determined individual. He's faced tough challenges before, and this latest ordeal is no different. His fans know that he won't back down easily, but they're watching closely to see if he'll approach his next season with the same relentless drive or a newfound caution. The final question. Is Parker's latest brush with death just part of the risks of gold mining, or is there something deeper going on? Only Parker can answer that question.
This all feels super weird. We've spent the last 5 years looking for a massive project and we just got one. I should be stoked.
And as he moves forward, fans will be there, eager to see if he can find a way to keep his passion alive while staying safe. Will Parker Schnabel continue his relentless pursuit of gold, or will he finally recognize the limits he must respect? Only time will tell. Parker's new approach to mining. After surviving a close call, Parker has returned to the mining site with a changed perspective. No longer is he solely focused on production numbers and profit. Instead, his primary focus has shifted toward ensuring that safety becomes an integral part of his operation. For Parker, this means slowing down, taking the time to evaluate each step carefully, and prioritizing the well-being of his team over rapid success. While his crew has always respected him for his work ethic, they're now seeing a different side of Parker. He's a leader who understands the stakes, someone who's been to the edge and came back with a deeper respect for the job. Confronting mortality. Parker's journey to self-awareness. For years, Parker Schnabel was known as the fearless miner who'd stop at nothing to find gold. He was relentless, driven by ambition and a desire to honor his family's legacy. But after the accident, everything he thought he knew about himself came into question. In the quiet solitude of the hospital, Parker confronted a side of himself he'd rarely acknowledged: his vulnerability. Lying in bed, his body battered and bruised, Parker was forced to confront the reality of mortality, a reality he'd managed to ignore for most of his career. He thought about the risks he'd taken, the times he'd pushed himself and his crew to their limits, and how close he'd come to leaving it all behind. The allure of gold and success had once seemed worth any price, but now he wondered if he'd been blinded by ambition. Parker's thoughts turned to the people in his life, particularly his family and his crew. These were the people who supported him, who believed in him, and who stood by him through every challenge.
Only needs 174 ounces to hit his 7,000-ounce season goal. But with the money pit paying out big gold, it could deliver much more.
Yet, he'd never stopped to consider how his choices might affect them. This close call wasn't just about his survival, it was about the impact of his decisions on those around him. In the days following the accident, Parker became more introspective. The accident wasn't just a physical setback, it was a mental and emotional awakening. He realized that he couldn't keep pushing himself without considering the consequences. This wasn't just about gold mining, it was about finding meaning beyond the pursuit of wealth and success. For the first time, he asked himself what kind of legacy he truly wanted to leave. He remembered the stories his grandfather told him, stories of hard work, respect for the land, and a love for the process. His grandfather had instilled in him a passion for mining, but he had also taught him the value of balance. Parker began to wonder if he'd lost sight of those teachings in his single-minded pursuit of more gold, more fame, and more recognition. As he recovered, Parker committed to redefining his approach. This wasn't just about being cautious on the job, it was about embracing a new philosophy. He realized that true strength wasn't about ignoring fear or pain, but acknowledging it and growing from it. Mining would always be a part of his life, but now he wanted to pursue it in a way that honored both his grandfather's legacy and his newfound perspective on life. Parker knew that moving forward, he would mine with purpose. He'd continue to take risks, but they would be calculated ones, mindful of the impact on both himself and his team. For the first time, he saw that his worth wasn't tied to the gold he extracted or the fame he gained, but to the integrity and respect with which he approached his work. This experience had given him clarity and a renewed sense of purpose. Parker had faced death and in doing so, found a path that resonated more deeply with his values. The gold would still be there, but now Parker had something more valuable, a commitment to live a life that truly mattered, both to him and to those who believed in him. The impact on his crew. Parker's accident didn't just shake him, it left a lasting impression on his crew as well. These men and women rely on him, not only as their leader, but also as a mentor. They've watched him push through adversity season after season, but this incident forced them all to confront the risks of their profession. Seeing Parker in such a vulnerable state was a turning point for many on the team. They realized that if someone as experienced as Parker could face such a life-threatening situation, none of them were immune. This shared experience strengthened the bonds within the crew, making them a more cautious, cohesive team that's now driven by a shared sense of responsibility.
Considering you guys built it all yourselves and from scratch, no, I'm just impressed.
For Parker, mining has always been more than just a job. It's a legacy. Growing up surrounded by stories of his grandfather's mining days, Parker has always wanted to honor that legacy by carving out a name for himself. But the accident forced him to reevaluate what legacy truly means. Is it about amassing gold, building wealth, or is it about something deeper, something that leaves a lasting impact beyond material gains? Parker now finds himself dealing with these questions, realizing that his legacy might be as much about the lives he touches as it is about the gold he finds. Facing the pressures of reality TV. The world of reality TV adds another layer of pressure. Shows like Gold Rush thrive on drama and high stakes, but Parker's accident has led him to question how much he's willing to sacrifice for the sake of entertainment. While he appreciates the platform Gold Rush provides, he's beginning to see the show's role in pushing miners to extremes for ratings. Parker's incident has sparked conversations among his fans about the ethics of reality TV, with some viewers calling for more transparency about the dangers miners face. For Parker, it's become clear that while the show has brought him fame, it has also exposed him to risks that he might not have taken otherwise. A return to basics. In the wake of his near-death experience, Parker has begun to strip back his approach to mining. Instead of constantly expanding, he's focused on going back to basics, ensuring that his operations are sustainable, safe, and in line with the values that originally drew him to the industry. He's no longer chasing gold at any cost. He's committed to doing things the right way. For Parker, this means maintaining a smaller, tighter operation where he can control quality and safety, rather than endlessly pursuing larger, riskier ventures. The psychological toll of mining. Beyond the physical injuries, the psychological toll of the accident has been profound. Mining has always been a mentally taxing job, with long hours, isolated locations, and constant threats. But this experience has left Parker with a new awareness of the mental strain that comes with facing death. Parker has started advocating for mental health awareness within his crew, encouraging them to take breaks and look out for each other. He's become more vocal about the importance of mental resilience, understanding that a strong mindset is as critical as physical endurance in the world of mining. The cost of ambition. Parker has always been ambitious, but his accident forced him to confront the cost of that ambition. He's realizing that constantly pushing himself and his team might have had unintended consequences. This experience has led him to adopt a more balanced approach, recognizing that achieving success doesn't have to come at the cost of his or his crew's well-being.
Diego, what's happening?
He's asking us to go to another point where they process the mercury. Oh, very cool.
He's also begun to appreciate that true leadership means knowing when to pull back, when to protect, and when to value life over profit. Parker is now focused on setting an example, showing that ambition can coexist with responsibility. Parker knows that his fans are watching closely, wondering what his next move will be. He's aware of the role he plays in inspiring young miners and adventure seekers, but he wants them to know that there's a dark side to the job, a side that isn't always shown on TV. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Parker opened up to fans, sharing his thoughts on the dangers of his career and encouraging aspiring miners to be cautious. He knows his words carry weight, and he hopes his experience serves as a reminder to others that no amount of gold is worth a life. A new beginning. Though he's still passionate about mining, Parker's near-death experience has marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life. He's determined to continue mining, but with a renewed commitment to safety, responsibility, and balance. This isn't an end for Parker, it's a transformation. He's found a way to blend his love for mining with a respect for the unpredictable nature of the job. And as he plans for the future, he's more focused than ever on protecting both his dream and his team. In the end, Parker Schnabel remains as driven as ever, but his focus has shifted. This accident reminded him that gold mining isn't just about the prize at the end. It's about the journey, the people by his side, and the responsibility he carries. As Parker moves forward, fans of Gold Rush can expect to see a wiser, more grounded miner, one who's willing to take risks, but also knows the value of stepping back, reevaluating, and protecting what truly matters.